I'll share something. Being an investor at the seed stage, this is just sort of an environmental insight. I have a couple of portfolio companies that are going out for.
Can you speak a little louder?
Sure. I have a couple of portfolio companies that are going out for funding now, sequential funding. So Series A, Series B. And so over the last 2 weeks, they've been on the road. So I've actually accompanied them to a few of these meetings. So for those who are raising funding, I'm going to share with you what's going on. Because it's scary. So there was an article that was written by one of the Andreessen Horowitz partners titled Series A is the New B. What he should have written was that Series Seed is the death valley. And what is going on out there is that in some cases Series A may be the new C. The expectations of venture capitalists in the funds are so high now that you have to be crystal clear when you're raising your seed round what your milestones are for the A. And then you need to double those. That's just how it works. No matter what magic you're doing, it doesn't matter. And what also happens is you can actually sit down and talk to a VC. He or she would tell you, you know what, if you can hit A, B, and C, LD or A, you show up and that target has moved. That goalpost has moved. Right? It is incredibly brutal. What's also somewhat disappointing is that a lot of them are reacting to hype, which means that PR has to be an integral part of your phasing. I know some of you may go, well, it's about product. You know, I need to find VCs who understand product. That's great. You won't get funded. You need to have the PR down. You need to be exquisite about the timing of the PR. Usually 2 weeks before you hit the road is great. While you're on the road is even better. And you know, a lot of VCs are, and I'm writing a blog post about it, which I'm going to publish this weekend. The Series A crunch is about a loss of conviction.
Loss of what?
Conviction. And so you need to sit down and communicate that, because you will be the only one at the table that has any conviction. And you have to essentially bring them over. And they're going to be all data driven. A lot of them will tell you we need to see metrics. Well, most of them don't actually understand the metrics, but they just like to see something that is up and to the right, right? Which is what they always keep saying. And you need to be crystal clear about communicating what your path looks like. You also need to do one thing, which I think I've told entrepreneurs over the years. Find VCs. I mean, everybody wants Sequoia, right? But I figured out how Sequoia invests. And 80 to 90% of the time, if they've not invested in you before, you have a really hard time getting their money at Series A. So you need to go and look for what you would call the tier 2 or the tier 3 VCs. And they do two things. One is if they're really excited because they all want to get to tier 1, they think it's always one deal that gets you to tier 1. It's one deal, one great deal. You get that funded. But the other thing is they give you good practice in pitch meetings. So you have all the answers. Because entrepreneurs they simply forget this. When you go to a VC, the answer is no before you walk in. It's your responsibility to make that yes. And it is really hard out there. You know, I mean, you know, we have companies, you know, the two companies are at different stages. They both raised, well, I mean, the A is doing quite well, and so the B is looking like it's going to be a big one. But, you know, it was interesting to see the process of that and how some of its traction wasn't even good enough. And so people are just layering all these excuses on. And then, you know, of course, what then you find is that they're investing in companies where you know it's just bullshit, right? It's all built on nonsense metrics, Maybe they grew on Open Graph. I'm not going to say any names. You know, and then you switch out the Open Graph, and all of a sudden, you know, one of the guys who went to 25 million users is at 42,000 users right now. Went up, went down, but raised 26 million in the process. I have no idea what they're doing with the cash. And so you have to be very, very, very clear. And, you know, nobody really thinks about an A at seed, but you actually need to do that. I mean, I couldn't say this just, I couldn't say it any harder. You have to be crystal clear. Now, AngelList does a good job. I think to the point about the advisor, the dynamics are changing. AngelList is just, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with AngelList, but it's essentially a syndicated platform that was started by Naval and Nivi, and it's done really well in being able to do two things, which is to showcase startups and to assemble a very diverse group of investors. You know, I've done a lot of work with women investors over the years, and so what has happened is that you find that women investors find different things interesting. So I'm a mentor to the Pipeline Fellowship, which is bringing on more women angels. And what's been fascinating is that, you know, the deals they get that they invest in are, I'm glad they're there because those deals will work. They just need people, you know, they're not sexy. You know, VCs will be like, oh, I'm not excited, so I'm not going to invest. Like, you know, Dyson, I would have invested in Dyson. It's not exciting, it just sells $1 billion worth of vacuum cleaners. But it's not exciting. You know, like I never use a vacuum cleaner. Why should I invest in one? But what you find is, you know, you're looking at AngelList, but what's going on now is that they're now allowing syndicates, which is where an advisor or an investor anchors the process, goes out and raises dollars for you. And there's a lot of social proof in investing, right? So it's what happens. People always want to know which deal is he doing, which deal is she doing, and they just follow on. That's the entire diligence. But if she's doing it, I'm in. And so you should try to use a lot of these tools, but that's seed stage investing. A is a complete minefield, and you need to be thinking about, and that's where you probably want advisors as well, to figure out how to get ready for 12, 14, 16 months before you actually go out. Yeah.
And how